He's doing his thing, he's been touring his wall show, having a great time, really enjoying himself.
After decades of quiet, Pink Floyd enthusiast David Gilmour, now 78 years old, has spoken up on a subject that has baffled them all. The legendary guitarist has spoken out about the shocking 1980s band split and its true cause. Roger Waters and Pink Floyd's relationship came to a turbulent finish, as the band's tale was distinguished by severe creative struggles and public feuds. Gilmour's fresh thoughts provide light on this topic. Is David Gilmour now going to spill the beans on what caused this dramatic confrontation? We'll have to see. Cambridge, England is the site of David Gilmour's birth on March 6, 1946. As a child, Gilmour thrived in the city's vibrant cultural and intellectual scene. The University of Cambridge, where his father, Douglas Gilmour, held the position of senior zoology lecturer, placed a premium on education and intellectual curiosity. Sylvia Gilmour, David's mother, was a film editor for the BBC, so he had early exposure to the arts and a different type of creative impact. Even as a young boy, Gilmour shone a talent for music, and his parents gave in to his enthusiasm by getting him his first guitar. His future profession was shaped by this early gift. He had an innate aptitude and committed himself fully to mastering the instrument by immersing himself in recorded music and practicing relentlessly. The local music scene became more important to Gilmour as he matured. In the middle of the 1960s, he created Joker's Wild, his first band. Gilmour gained important experience as a musician while playing in a band that played cover songs and played at several places around Cambridge. The prevalent music of his day, especially rock and roll and the blues, had a profound impact on his style. Nobody failed to notice Gilmour's skill. While busking throughout Spain and France, he honed his talents and explored new musical territory. He also participated in other bands. He honed his signature sound and stage persona throughout this time of performing and experimenting. The invitation to join Pink Floyd, a band that was already becoming a sensation in the music industry, changed Gilmour's life in 1967. After original lead singer Syd Barrett left the band, he joined at a crucial juncture when the group was experiencing transitions. A new chapter in Gilmour's life and the history of Pink Floyd began with his entrance into the band. It was in 1965 in London when Pink Floyd was founded. Syd Barrett, guitar and lead vocals, Roger Waters, bass, Nick Mason, drums, and Richard Wright, keyboards, were the initial members of the band. The band's distinctive sound, which combined psychedelic rock with experimental elements, led to rapid popularity. The early music of the band was greatly impacted by Syd Barrett, who was both the lead singer and main composer. Pink Floyd stood out from other bands of their period due to his unique guitar playing and inventive lyrics. Yet Barrett had a rocky stint with the group. Substance abuse probably made his mental health worse, and everything started to spiral out of control. His increasingly irrational conduct hindered the band's ability to perform and record. Barrett was no longer able to make meaningful contributions to the band's activities by 1967 due to the progression of his illness. The rest of Pink Floyd came to the realization that they had to make a move if they were going to keep going. Friend of the band members and guitarist, vocalist David Gilmour was brought on board in December 1967. Gilmour had planned to be Barrett's stage partner and musical scapegoat at first, but as Barrett's health continued to deteriorate, it became apparent that he could no longer play in the band. Barrett had departed Pink Floyd totally by the beginning of 1968. Making the change was difficult. After losing Barrett, the band had to reevaluate its style and sound. In contrast to Barrett's experimental flair, Pink Floyd's music under Gilmour was more organized and melodious. His vocals and guitar work gave the band's sound a fresh perspective. The new lineup started to get going after some early struggles. A time of expansion and invention ensued as a result of Gilmour's input and the inventiveness of the surviving members. By combining Gilmour's guitar work with the band's proclivity for complex musical compositions and profound philosophical themes, they began to build the sound that would come to characterize Pink Floyd. For Pink Floyd, this was a watershed moment at this time. They started working on new music that displayed their developing sound when Gilmour was completely assimilated into the group. Gilmour made his debut on 1968's A Saucerful of Secrets, which showcased the band's evolution from its psychedelic beginnings to a more progressive rock style. Both the music and the people involved went through shifts. The addition of Gilmour changed the dynamic of the band and brought to new collaborations, most notably between Gilmour and Waters. Later on, this collaboration would play a significant role in the making of some of Pink Floyd's most famous songs. David Gilmour and Roger Waters' collaboration was vital to Pink Floyd's success in the 1970s. The combination of Gilmour's instrumental prowess and Waters' profound poetic abilities produced some of the most critically lauded compositions by the band. Metal, an album released in 1971, was one of their first significant collaborations. This album showcased Pink Floyd's more coherent and mature sound, marking a big step forward for the band. One of the album's selling points was Gilmour's guitar work, which complemented Waters' emotive songwriting and themes well on Echoes and other tunes. Between the band's early psychedelic period and their later, more polished releases, metal was a connecting link. The 1973 publication of The Dark Side of the Moon was the pinnacle of the Gilmour-Waters collaboration. Many people think this is the best rock album of all time. Conceptually, Waters spearheaded the album, which centers on war, avarice, time, and mental illness. Gilmour's vocal performances and signature guitar solos were just as important, serving as the band's foundation. A strong and flawless record that touched many people was the product of the collaboration between Gilmour's musical sensibilities and Waters' deep words. Pink Floyd persisted in developing new sounds and styles after the tremendous success of Dark Side of the Moon. Wish You Were Here, their 1975 follow-up album, was their next big hit. As well as reflecting on the music business, this record paid respect to their late bandmate Syd Barrett. With Wish You Were Here, the title tune, Gilmour and Waters showcased their collaboration. Waters' melancholy lyrics, which deal with grief and yearning, are enhanced by Gilmour's expressive guitar playing and passionate vocals. The introspective tone of Shine On You Crazy Diamond, another excellent piece, is captured well by Gilmour's long guitar solos. Intricate and fruitful were the dynamics between Gilmour and Waters. Gilmour's distinctive sound was defined by his silky vocal delivery and lyrical guitar work. He has an innate talent for writing captivating musical compositions that could independently hold their own. But Waters was the band's principal songwriter and was famous for writing about deep thoughts and often gloomy topics. His songwriting gave Pink Floyd's music personality and made their songs seem like tales. Pink Floyd was able to produce musically rich and thematically meaningful music because their abilities were complementary. Gilmour's musical arrangement served as an ideal vehicle for Waters' poetic thoughts, which she then infused with direction and significance via her conceptions. Gilmour gave life to those concepts by transforming them into captivating melodies and orchestration. Despite the occasional tense moments, their creative cooperation produced excellent results. During this time, Pink Floyd created some of their most famous and groundbreaking music, which will be remembered for generations to come. In spite of their conflicts, Gilmour and Waters' partnership was a driving force that propelled Pink Floyd to unprecedented heights and solidified their position in rock history. There were major disagreements within Pink Floyd throughout the recording of both The Wall and The Final Cut. Conflict between David Gilmour and the rest of the band members and Roger Waters, who was becoming more hands-on with the band's artistic direction, was a source of stress throughout these endeavors. An enormous and daring undertaking, The Wall was unveiled in 1979. It was mainly inspired by Waters' vision, which mirrored his own life and dealt with issues of loneliness and rejection. There was a lot of stress while recording, but the CD turned out well. As Waters became more involved in deciding the band's artistic trajectory, tensions and arguments began to rise. Even though Gilmour had a major impact, especially on songs like Comfortably Numb, he felt even more ignored. While filming 1983's The Final Cut, this tension became much worse. The album, which was meant to be a continuation of The Wall, featured Waters even more prominently. It mostly ignored Gilmore and the rest of the band in favor of his political and personal views. Anger and dissatisfaction between Gilmore and Waters, who took an autocratic attitude throughout the recording sessions, reached unprecedented levels. His impression was that Pink Floyd was losing the collaborative vibe that had been a hallmark of their previous work. Everything had finally broken down by 1985. After Waters realized Pink Floyd could no longer play their music well, he left the band. The band had, in his opinion, reached its peak performance level without his innovative direction. The discordant nature of his departure sparked heated disputes in court over Pink Floyd's trademarks and intellectual property. Pink Floyd, according to Waters, has reached its creative peak, and the surviving members should not keep performing under the moniker. On the other hand, Gilmore and drummer Nick Mason were keen on keeping the band together. The case went to trial because of the disagreement over the band's identity and recording rights. A deal was achieved in 1987 after a long and contentious court struggle. Whilst Waters would have some creative control over The Wall and subsequent works, Gilmore and Mason could keep utilizing the Pink Floyd moniker. Although the separation caused deep wounds, Pink Floyd were able to continue forth legally without Waters. Waters went her own way, while Pink Floyd's Gilmore, Mason, and keyboardist Richard Wright kept putting out music. Anger between Waters and his ex-bandmates persisted for years after the court settlement. The recording of Pink Floyd's The Wall and The Final Cut brought attention to the widening divide within the band, which was fueled by Waters' overpowering creative influence. The band's history took a dramatic turn in 1985 when he decided to depart, and the legal struggle that followed over the band's name was a watershed moment. Although the band was able to continue after the resolution, the breakup highlighted how difficult it is to keep everyone on the same page when they have such strong and different artistic views. Following Roger Waters' 1985 departure from Pink Floyd, David Gilmour remained resolute in his mission to sustain the band. He was of the belief that, even without Waters, Pink Floyd could continue to make groundbreaking music and carry on the band's heritage. Gilmour assumed leadership responsibilities and set out to reinvigorate the group's creative drive and trajectory. Pink Floyd's first album without Waters was 1987's A Momentary Lapse of Reason. For the band, this record was the beginning of a new era. Gilmour brought in both longtime friends and newcomers to help develop the album's sound. After leaving the band during the recording of The Wall, Richard Wright was brought back, although at first he could only play session music because of legal considerations. They had a more polished, commercially appealing sound on this record than on their earlier efforts. Despite critical ambivalence, A Momentary Lapse of Reason did well at the box office upon its premiere. It reinstated Pink Floyd as a powerful force in the music business and hit the top of the charts in many nations. Pink Floyd's live performances were known for their lavish stage presentations and stunning graphics, which contributed to the popularity of the accompanying tour. The band's triumphant comeback to fame was further cemented by this tour, which proved they could continue to flourish even without Waters. In 1994, Pink Floyd continued to build on this success with the release of The Division Bell. On this album, Gilmour and Wright worked together more, and Nick Mason added a lot too. The rekindled band spirit was reflected in the album's recurring themes of human connection and communication. Both reviewers and listeners gave The Division Bell high marks, and it quickly rose to the top of the charts in the United Kingdom and the United States. Another lengthy tour followed The Division Bell's triumph, providing further evidence of Gilmour's plans for Pink Floyd's future. Groundbreaking stage designs, such as the now iconic Division Bell heads and a huge light display, were shown during the tour. The band's creative juices were flowing again at this time, and they seemed to have found some stability. Following Waters' departure, Gilmour aimed to expand Pink Floyd's live performance capabilities while preserving the band's signature sound. By fusing new soundscapes with themes that made you think and breathtaking visual experiences, he hoped to capture the spirit of Pink Floyd. After Pink Floyd disbanded, Gilmour kept the band's legacy alive via his solo work and collaborations. Despite Pink Floyd's lengthy hiatus following the Division Bell, the band finally released 2014's The Endless River. A memorial to the band's legacy and Wright, who died in 2008, this CD paid homage to both with its mostly instrumental compositions derived from the Division Bell recordings. Pink Floyd's continued prominence and renown in the music industry are both testaments to Gilmour's direction. He did his best to keep the band going in Waters' absence, which enabled them to continue making music while also preserving their heritage. It was Gilmour's doggedness and vision that propelled Pink Floyd into a new age, a period that would be remembered by the band and their fans for generations to come. Roger Waters' feud with David Gilmour persisted even after he left Pink Floyd in 1985. For a long time, the media covered the two artists' spat, in which they often made public remarks criticizing one another. This feud brought to light their long-simmering animosity and fundamental disagreements. In the year 2020, one significant event in their public quarrel took place. An online feud broke out when Waters claimed Gilmour had banned him from the band's website and other social media sites. Waters was irate that Pink Floyd didn't recognize his efforts and wouldn't let him promote his solo work to the band's massive fan base. Although Gilmour refrained from openly responding to the claims, the encounter highlighted the persistence of their hostility. Despite their public feuds, Gilmour and Waters have tried to make up on occasion. Notable among these times was their 2005 reunion at Live 8. Waters has not played with Pink Floyd since his departure until this concert. With hits like Comfortably Numb and Wish You Were Here among their setlist items, the band received rave reviews at Live 8. The one-time reunion disappointed many admirers who had hoped for a lasting reconciliation. Rarely in the years after Live 8, Gilmour and Waters would work together on special projects. At a benefit for the Hoping Foundation in 2010, they played a brief acoustic concert together. This performance showed that they could put aside their disagreements and work together for a worthy cause, which was a nice surprise for the audience. In 2011, at a performance of the Wall Tour at the O2 Arena in London, Waters extended an invitation to Gilmour to join him on stage, marking another effort at reconciliation. Gilmour contributed guitar work to Comfortably Numb, and Nick Mason joined them for the album's closing track, Outside the Wall. For Pink Floyd fans, this was a watershed event since it reunited three former members of the iconic group. Despite these efforts at healing, the band never fully reunited. There could never have been a lasting partnership between Gilmour and Waters due to their profoundly different personalities and styles of music. Waters devoted his time to political and theatrical endeavors, while Gilmour worked on solo albums and tours. Both artists persisted in pursuing solo careers. These brief but significant moments of cooperation demonstrated that Gilmour and Waters could still find some common ground despite their public animosity. Their relationships throughout the years have been characterized by both harmonious coexistence and occasional clashes, mirroring the intricate and often turbulent bond between two of the most pivotal personalities in rock music. The few occasions they have performed together have been treasured by Pink Floyd fans and contributed to the band's lasting reputation, even if a permanent reunion is very improbable. Over the last several years, David Gilmour has been more forthcoming with his thoughts on Pink Floyd's past and his connection to Roger Waters. What he thinks of Waters helps explain why he thinks he was instrumental in the band's arguments and breakup. When asked about the evolution of the band's dynamic, Gilmour gave an honest account. When asked about the turning point in Pink Floyd's internal strife, he often cites the late 1970s and early 1980s. Gilmour claims that artistic and personal disputes arose as a result of Waters' growing dominance over the band's direction. He thought that the band was severely compromised because of Waters' fixation on a certain musical vision and his ambition to control the creative process. The method used for albums such as The Wall and The Final Cut was a big bone of dispute between Gilmour and Waters. These were difficult times for the band, according to Gilmour, since Waters' impact was so great that it overshadowed those of the other members. Waters' increasingly inflexible and unyielding vision for the band, according to Gilmour, stifled creativity and made individuals less willing to express their own opinions. These growing conflicts, according to Gilmour, led to Waters' 1985 resignation from Pink Floyd. He often alludes to Waters' dominance and departure as major causes of the band's demise. According to Gilmour, Pink Floyd as we knew it came to an end when Waters left, and he has previously said that Waters' behavior was detrimental to the band's cohesion. Gilmour has also spoken about how he tried to keep Pink Floyd's sound and identity intact after Waters departed. He was hell-bent on carrying the band's torch and keeping the music authentic to its roots in the absence of Waters. Gilmour made an effort to acknowledge the band's history and maintain its ethos with albums like The Division Bell and A Momentary Lapse of Reason. The difficulties of maintaining Pink Floyd's identity in the face of the changes that followed Waters' departure are something he has discussed. The long, simmering animosity between David Gilmour and Roger Waters has now been illuminated by his latest confessions, which explain the reasons for the historic disintegration of Pink Floyd. After much conjecture, Gilmour finally sheds light on the inner workings of his dispute with Roger Waters. Please subscribe and like this video if you like this glimpse into Pink Floyd's past and found it interesting. Leave a comment with your questions and ideas on Pink Floyd's legacy and Gilmour's discoveries. Look out for you in our next video.